and then you go after them more quickly as opposed to delay and deny and be defensive, and so that you can actually get through more complex issues more quickly because your skill is growing. But even more than that, you just get after it. You don't waste time. You just, okay, here it is, this is what it is, we're gonna have to go through this one next, and here we go.
Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Leadership Podcast. Who has been the most influential advisor or mentor in your own journey, and what's one key lesson you've learned from them that still guides your decision making today? Today, I'm thrilled to have Dr. Mark Vincent. Mark is a pioneering executive advisor and process consultant expert with over 30 years of experience guiding accomplished leaders and organizations through succession, growth, and legacy building. As a founder of the Design Group International, an author dedicated to emotional intelligence and wise leadership, Mark is recognized for the ability to develop the next generation leaders and foster meaningful, long-lasting change. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Well, this is a delight, Justin. I admire the work that you're doing, the energy you bring to it. So let's go.
Yeah, woo, let's do it. Hey, what's the question? Just kidding.
No question at all.
So I'd love to kind of start out here with kind of letting the audience know about your journey that you've been on, what you've kind of accomplished, and then what you're doing today to help people.
Well, that's a broad one, so I want to make sure that it's pertinent to what we're talking about here.
Yes.
I got involved very early in what we would call complex decision making. Some decisions we make are simple, but in organizations, they're often complex. There's multiple systems, multiple people. Do we do this? Do we do that? How do we figure that out? And are we all on board? Do we all mean the same things? So I began working with a methodology a long time ago that was new then, but everybody uses it now. So we talk about things like brainstorming and teaming and finding win-win scenarios and mind mapping and let's get out the spreadsheet and write everything down that we can. The spreadsheet, the newsprint, write everything down that we can. Before there were whiteboards, before there were smart boards, and we found out that these methods really work, but they were fresh and new at that time. People didn't have the language of win-win scenarios. It was much more about who's in charge and you do what they say. Or if it was more of a consensus type or democratic institution, you'd vote. And so then you could have power blocks of people who are more politically skilled than others, and they could dominate things. And so that methodology was fresh enough and impactful enough. I began, without any real intention, to get a lot of invitations. And the sentence often started out like, hey, we're painted in a corner over here and we can't find a way out. So can you help us? The ways that we've been working at it don't work. We hear that you're working on some things. We hear that you've been successful. Would you come help us? So I was not a consultant. I didn't have a firm. I wasn't charging anything. I was just a helpful person working on his graduate degree, and I would come help. And then I'd get another invitation and then another invitation. And over time, my career was born. As a person who could work with process, who could work with difficult decision-making scenarios, often when you've got people who are feeling conflicted at the table. And over time, we developed a firm called Design Group International for people like myself who had a developing expertise and thought, hey, we could make a career of this, not just a hobby. And so we created that as a place for them to land and to have a full career and to be able to do good work with multiple clients. And that's really the journey I was on. It's just a couple of years ago that I sold my share in that company, and now I'm devoted entirely to what I would call the highest art form in this work. And that's when there's succession planning involved, or business continuity and succession planning involved, because you want to talk about complexity. You want to talk about things that can go wrong. You want to talk about high value stakes conversations where nobody's really done this before. And even if they say they have, they've not done it with this company, with this team of people in this marketplace. So I get to work in those kinds of conversations today. And it is a lot of fun. It is also a lot of hard work, and it's a considerable joy. But that's been kind of the trajectory of my career.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Want to touch on some key points that you brought up there. I'd love to dive kind of further into. You talked
Sure,
about
sure.
business continuity planning. I know a lot of businesses are probably like, what's that? I have a business, I plan stuff out. That's how it goes. So
Yeah.
can you kind of, I mean, that's not a good way to start
Yeah.
that with,
Right.
but unfortunately, there's a lot of
Oh,
businesses and planning is not part of the
yeah.
conversation.
That's
But
well
what's
said. The simplest definition of business continuity that I like is that we're in business next year also. That's continuity. We get through this year, so we're doing this year with next year in mind. And the current budget, the current plan is not where it all begins and ends, but we intend to be in business next year also and years after that. So that is we factor that in as we make decisions. That means we can't just decide on the month or the quarter or even the current plan. We have to hold the longer term in some form in mind. And then when we're talking about the succession part of continuity, we're really talking about the talent part of business continuity. It's not just the what is our building and do we have enough inventory or do we have the right kind of tech stack. It will also be, do we have the right people ready? Have we retained the talent that we want to keep? Have we reduced the risk of people leaving, as well as reduced business churn, of employee churn? So you're carrying these together, and I find, first of all, as you said, many businesses don't have these conversations. They just don't. And when they do, then they feel like, hey, we've evolved enough to do some longer term planning. They tend to divide continuity and talent as if they are two separate items. And so continuity planning tends to go to the finance department, maybe some business strategy, and the talent tends to land with like HR or something. And they're not brought together as one big plan that involves the whole of the business. So I really like to advocate that succession is a part of business continuity, that they're not divorced from each other or compartmentalized in that way.
I like how that was said. Who would be the people involved in this? Would it be the entire company? Is there certain C-suite executives? And would that depend on how big the company is who's involved?
So let's say we're a really tiny company, like a solo shop. Well, then that person has all of the roles that I'm about to define. And as a business, and they can't just say, I don't have that role. Yes, you do. If you're the owner and the operator and the chief, carry out of the program person, you have all of those roles and you're responsible for all of them. But as we build it out and we get more robust and more durable, we tend to break these roles apart. So if there is a board, or if there's ownership or some combination, it is right and reasonable for them to expect that there is a continuity and succession plan. They don't have to write it, but to expect that there is one, yes. The executives then are responsible to show that it is there and that it is reasonable. And a succession plan doesn't mean that if you and I are in the same company and something happens to me, that you are then my successor. But it could mean that we've identified you as the interim, the person who will step in and carry this, in an emergency situation as a backup. But in some way, we've got that built out. The executive is responsible to make sure it is there and to um, watch over its development. And then, if you're large enough of a company that you might have department heads or directors, they need to be the ones who are really developing it for their arena, their area, so that they're very close to it. Where this stuff falls apart is when a person feels like they've been told how it was done, or it's a surprise to them, or they weren't consulted in it. Then they might do a slow kind of write it to death and veto and kind of rebel quietly at that because they weren't considered. So you want to pull the talent and the insight up and out of the departments, and the executive needs to watch over and make sure it's robust, that it's there. They may even want to test case some of it, and ownership and board, if there is one, need to demand that it's there. All it takes is one key person to have an accident, and you're up a creek. I mean, a really, really badly. And so to expect that continuity is done. I worked with a company a month ago where they told the two key leaders, okay, As of now, you do not travel together in the same airplane. That's part of our continuity plan. You
Was this
don't.
before or after the Coldplay incident?
Um,
I
it
feel like
was
that
just
changed some stuff.
before. It was just
Okay.
before. Yeah, yeah. Do not go to concerts together and sway to the music. I think that's one of the other things that we don't do.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's not too at the same
Mm-mm.
time.
No, and
Uh,
that certainly was a continuity scenario, unexpected,
yeah.
right? And succession is immediate in such an instance. Now, you don't want it to be immorality, and you don't want it to be a health care or a tragic accident, but they do happen.
Yes, that is so true. So let me ask you this. Like, I just started a business. It's me, maybe one or two people. Is this something I should be thinking about now, or is it something down the road? I know you mentioned earlier that it helps you to stay in business the next year and the year after that. So it
Yeah,
sounds like it's something you want to think of now, but I just started. I have so many things going on. Where does
yeah.
that play a role in?
That is a very important consideration. So, one of the things that I have learned to say when someone says, should I start thinking about it now? I like to answer, you are thinking about it now. So, why not put it to good use? Right? And if someone says, well, I've got 5 years to go, I think, so now feels like a good time. Should I? I'm like, yeah, you may already be too late. So get after it. You can do some work on it now. But let's get let's get really down to a brass tack with this, Justin. So if you're going to run a business, you're starting one. My question is, do you want to be a manager or do you want to be an executive? If you're going to be a manager, you're going to take care of things as they exist, and you're going to operate things as they are. If you're going to be primarily an executive, you're responsible to bring an executive level of thinking to the organization, no matter what stage of the business that it is. And I really like to go to the human brain. You have several functions in your brain, so do I, so does any human. But the executive function of our brain, that's what we call it, is there to do complex problem solving. It's to do higher orders, cognition. So when we're at our computer pounding out the emails, trying to get bids out, trying to handle invoices, we're not problem solving. We are in a kind of a zone. We might not be in our lizard brain, reacting with violence or fear or whatever else, but we're not up heads up looking around, making connections, solving problems for the long term. The executive function of the organization is responsible for that level of thinking for the organization. And so if you're busy, 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 good for you, and may you succeed. And where is the half day a month? Where's the 1 hour a week? Where is the full day a quarter? Something where you're giving yourself to the long term planning, purview, getting ahead of the curve, thinking further out. It's never too late to start that. There was some kind of thought that got the business started in the first place, but you had to write a business plan. If you got a loan, you had to do that. You had to show somebody that was worth it. You had to write a website. All of that took some level of cognition to demonstrate that you were thoughtful. Well, you don't want to shut that off just because you opened the doors and turned on the lights. That needs to remain present with you.
I feel like that does get shut off sometimes, though. Because, like
It
we said, you
does.
get so carried away in the administrative stuff. You
Yes.
mentioned earlier to be the manager or the executive. When you start out, aren't you kind of both for a
Sure.
certain amount of time,
Yeah.
or you can
And
be both?
executives have things to manage. And managers need to use the executive function of the brain. So they don't separate out and become completely separate. But one of them becomes sort of like the engine for your train with the other cars coming along behind. And if you are the owner and operator of the business, you carry the executive function, whether you exercise it or not. I mean, you're the one that's accountable, whether you are or not. So it's a lot better to be ahead of it than behind it, and to be in front of where you want the business to go instead of being completely in reactive mode.
I feel that. You mentioned taking one day out of the week. And when you said that, you mean to sit down really drop a plan and figure out where we want to go, where we're trying to get to. That way you're kind of
Right.
thinking.
And how are we performing? And I think the newer and smaller businesses, it might be an hour a week, but it's calendared and it's honored. It might be a day a week when you get a little bit more mature. But the social scientists who have spent a lot of time with this, there's been several studies across the years. Some of the earlier ones said, a true executive who's got a mature operation, they're going to have to spend at least a third of their time thinking. And that means they just can't be in reactive kind of tasks and only in meetings where they can't walk around, connect, problem solve, look at the marketplace, develop future value items. Some of the more recent research says as much as 2/3 of the time. So I say split the difference. Let's just start with that once your business really grows, you're going to need for you to be able to continue to guide it into the future. You or someone has to be able to give about half their time to walking around, noticing things, clearing obstacles out of the way of the people who are performing the business, because somebody's got their head up, looking ahead, making the connections, and delivering the possibilities of those items, services or products or partnerships, whatever, that bring in the future value of the business that you don't have yet. Because so much of what we're doing now will be obsolete in 5 years.
That is true. A lot of your people are working for you. You have a lot of managers managing AI agents and stuff also.
All of a sudden.
Agents and people together. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
talking to a guy about that recently. I'm like, AI agent management. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm gonna have him on here. It was just
Yeah.
interesting because that whole thing is it's gonna be a huge shift for a lot of businesses. You really have to
Huge. And
really
it's
figure that plan out. Where you're gonna go, how you're gonna do it,
right.
who's going to do it.
Yeah. And all of that is executive level thinking.
I
And it doesn't
actually
mean that the executive has to come up with all the ideas, but they're responsible that ideas are being generated and they're close to it because ultimately the continuity of the business is driven by value that you have not yet achieved.
this is actually really new for me. I'm actually intrigued by this because as I started my business, you go from a 9 to 5 and you start building a business. It's a lot you don't know. But like you're saying too just now that it's not necessarily the executive's problem, but it's his problem to go find people to help him solve the problem.
Yeah,
It's on him to help people in the
she or
right.
he need help. They can't
Yeah.
be perfectly knowledgeable about everything.
Because I started the business. I can do this. I know everything. That's how I started. I didn't get it at
Yeah,
first. I didn't understand that.
yeah,
And then every person I talk to, I realize there's like a different level and step every day to go through. Some of
absolutely.
some of those steps take 1 to 2 days, maybe a few weeks. All depends on where you are and how much help
And
you're
there
willing to
will be
get.
new steps after, won't there? I'm like you
Sometimes
manage
you
these
fall down the
problems,
stairs, you know,
right? Yeah, yeah.
and you go back to
You
level
clear,
one, but you gotta keep going up them.
yeah. You
Reach
get
that
back up and keep
mountaintop.
going, right?
Yeah, I really like how you talk about the business continuity though, because there's just kind of a new concept of me trying to understand that. And I'm sure that others of our audience are like, what are you talking about? So I'm hoping this kind of
Yeah.
opens their eyes. I know it's opened mine.
Well, good. And if all we don't even have to remember the word continuity or how to spell it. What we need to remember is, do I intend to be in business next year also? And do my decisions have that in mind? Otherwise, I'm just reacting, just trying to get through today, just trying to get through this week.
Yeah, I feel
And
that.
I might actually be handicapping the ability to be in business next year as well.
Yeah, but I really feel that because I feel that some of the roadblocks I've stumbled on myself have been handicapping me. They have been
Hmm.
very reactive. And though I talk about being proactive, I can only be proactive in so much and on so much until I learn about the other things to be proactive on. So I'm still
Hmm.
in that reactive until I understand I move to the next level.
Right.
Like having these
I think you're saying it very
conversations.
well.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm like, it's like one of those growth moments. I'm like, whoa. Like it's lots to think about. It's a lot of information. You start a business, you're like, well, I just want to help people. I want to make money, but I have to do all these things. But if you
Yeah.
want to stay in business for the long term, from what I got from this, you have to have a plan.
Right. I
Yeah.
love Michael Gerber's The E Myth for this conversation.
Oh, I got that right
He
over
did
here.
that. Yeah, he did. You know, I think he was the author of this idea, the analogy anyway, of okay, so you want to open an ice cream shop. Well, do you want to dip ice cream or do you want to own the shop? Because if you're successful, you will ultimately have to choose. It doesn't mean you never dip ice cream again. It doesn't mean that you never see the financials of the business. But one way or the other, you're either delivering the service that you love, which means somebody else has to be running all of this, or you actually like delivering the service better, which means you're training up people and giving them a process that they can run to serve the best ice cream in the best way that people are delighted and want to come back. But you will, if you succeed, you'll ultimately have to choose.
Ooh, I feel that. 'Cause I feel like I'm right there myself. Like I love being the technician. I understand that part, but I'm learning about the leadership and the executive roles and being the operator. And like, oh, but eventually one day I'm gonna have to choose. Am I gonna
Hmm.
lead this company and have other people do those other roles? Am I gonna be stuck there and not grow, not scale, not get to where I want to be
Right.
because I'm holding myself back with my mindset
Yeah.
and way of doing things?
Yeah. So, Justin,
Ooh,
if we honored this conversation and just used what you
yeah,
described as an example, then it
yeah,
would be okay, if you choose, it doesn't mean that the choice has completely landed, but it
yeah,
would set the stage. Like if you look at that and you say, ultimately, I can't do both. Ultimately, as much as it will grieve me to give up one of these and not do it as much, here's where I want to land. With that in mind, you can start to make your choices. And over time, by degrees, you move in that direction because you've got a sense of where this needs to go that honors what you want. And that's where continuity starts to become more of a promise because you're making those decisions with that in mind. It doesn't pull you out of the technical things immediately or even the new things if those really, get your motor running, but you end up choosing. You can always walk it back, but choosing with that longer term in mind. And yes, it will be, oh, I missed this. Oh, it's painful.
yeah.
Oh, and yet that gives opportunity for other people to grow and for you to be even better as an organization.
I love how you said that. That really hit home and very well because I see that the role that I want to be in is not going to allow me to be in it unless I let go of the things I'm doing right now, giving those to other people and training them to
Yeah.
do them.
It's part of the
I feel
crucible of success.
yeah,
It's not all complete joy. Look, I succeeded. It's we succeeded and we've learned to manage this set of problems and move them around and resolve some things. Now, new challenges, new
yeah,
problems, new things to manage that we would not have had the privilege had we not solved for this moment. And then with that round, there'll be another, and then there'll be another, and that
different
is a
level,
part
different
of the
devil.
human experience. Yeah, great statement.
Yeah. And that's a powerful statement. I've heard from some. I think it was Cody Sanchez talked about that.
That's
Every level
I'll have to remember
in
that one.
business, yeah,
Yeah,
different level, different devil. And like you have one set of problems at this level, the next level is gonna be a whole new set of problems.
yeah,
That's what being an entrepreneur is about. And I
yep.
didn't really click for me, but I started understanding it and I started doing what you're saying, just little steps, and started getting to where I needed to be. I'm like, well, this is not so bad. You just learn how to problem solve at different levels.
Hmm.
I'm like, you're becoming pretty much a mighty problem solver, is what
Yeah,
you're
and then you
doing.
go after them more quickly as opposed to delay
Yeah,
and deny and be defensive, and so that you can actually get through
yeah,
more complex issues more quickly because your skill is growing. But even more than that, you just get after it. You don't waste time. You just okay, here it is. This is what it is. We're gonna have to go through this one next, and here we go.
yeah. At first, that was really hard because like my old me, my old identity, old habits was fighting the new improved me that I'm trying to get to, where I'm trying to go.
Wow,
And it was
wow.
just kind of like a back and forth, like, well, you're used to this and this comfort zone. Let's stay here. But you want to get here though. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like, but I've learned over that time, it's gotten easier and easier to let go of that identity.
Yeah.
It's still a journey. It's still frustrating as hell. It's not
Hmm.
easy. You go through so much learning, growth, and development, like who you are, what you're trying to become, and who you actually can become.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
nuts, the human being.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it sometimes.
Well, we
Like,
talk about transformation, and I think you just gave it a definition.
woo! God bless America. And the transformation is a battle. It's a battlefield.
Hmm.
It's one of the toughest things that I've experienced in my growth journey. And I'm still experiencing it. And that's why I have this podcast, having these conversations, because not just trying to help other people learn, teach them and help them grow, but I'm also learning a lot in the process because there's so many things I don't know. I want to know. And I
Yeah,
want to know everything, but I know I can't. But I'm going to try
yeah,
my damn best to know as much as I can.
yeah. That's one of the things I like about what you're doing and about your podcast in particular is that you've got yourself out there as a laboratory, as opposed to, hey, I know stuff, or I'm just going to talk to people who know stuff and makes it look like I know stuff. You're
Yeah.
saying this is what I'm working on. This is what the raw stuff is. This is the real stuff. This is what it's like. And I think there's going to be a lot of your listeners who are in their own journeys that will say, "Hey, Justin's in it with me, and he's
That's what I'm
he's the
hoping.
real deal." So may that
I'm
may that continue for you.
Thank you, because everyone always shows like what they have, what they accomplished, but they never show the journey or what the hell you really have to go through. Like social media is the reason
That's
for a
right.
lot of it. It makes things look
That's
so easy, so well done. But like
yeah,
you, for example, it took you years to get where you've gotten to, years to understand these concepts and stuff. And now you're more pro at it than you used to be, but you've been on that journey to get there.
yeah.
And all we usually
Well,
see is the
that's
destination.
yeah, that's true. And then you have new limitations. So I don't have the energy of a
Seriously.
24-year-old anymore. So I have to be judicious about what I choose to do. And being a podcast guest is something that just gives me a thrill. So I'm really grateful to do this with you today. But to be able to be in a spot where we're having conversation with newer and younger leaders and people who have a dream in order to help them grow it in a way that they've got integrity instead of losing it, where there is a reason to live in the world that they help to create instead of experiencing them as a person who further destroys the world. I often say I want to be in business for the hope of my grandchildren's grandchildren and yours or anybody else's. I want 3 and 4 generations from now, because I was here, that they would say, that's the person who got it. That's the person who cared. If my story even would continue in that way, but when that's in play, we can we can bring impact to the world, not just to ourselves, but in a way that others have hope for their lives. And that's something I can do more now than I could do when I was younger. And I'm happy to be doing it.
I love how you said that. That really hit home for me too. I feel that. A lot of these things and concepts, or even building a business or being in leadership and helping people. When I was younger, I understood to a point, but it's just like I didn't have the right people to bring out the tools that are already inside me to help me learn how to grow in the correct way and actually help people. I really like that because it's important. A lot of us don't have purpose anymore, but the purpose that we have is not really. It's fake almost. It's just to serve. It's self-serving.
There's some literature out there now about this, but our culture, I'm talking particularly about the U.S. enterprise culture, um, really puts pressure on all of us to be performers, dress right, be right. So even if it's now a way less formal and hybrid workplace, there's still the pressure to be a performer. Everything's driven by that as opposed to being real. Well, what happens when you're performing is that there's a fake part of you and a real part of you, and they're not in concert. And that creates a dissonance that shows up when there's stress. And so, if we're going to try to have a workplace where people will go return to 30 or 40 years of growth in their workplace and have opportunities in front of them, they don't have time. None of us have time for all of that dissonance and all the stuff that is, I'm pretending to be this, but this is who I really am. Um, and for us then as a company to say, this is what we want you to see as a marketplace, but if you really knew, this is what our workplace culture is like. We say we've got this mission, but we treat people like crap. That's the performance culture. and it puts on a lot of makeup, slathers it on in order to look pretty, and that's where the put a lipstick on a pig expression came from. So what we want is to be able to have integration and reality and humility that will actually then go after problem solving, be able to say we've conquered it, but it starts from real instead of wasting time and money on pretending.
Oh, I love how you put that. I see through so much of that. All the companies I've worked with, I just see
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of that. Like they don't have a good rooted culture. They don't have good management or even leaders. People you can really
Yeah,
count on. They're in this
correct.
old mindset and way of thinking, and it's just how do we change that? How can we change that? Some people just can't get a little disconnected, thinking they
Uh,
can't. This is how it always has been. It's how it always will be. But
well, you're
just
you're creating an organization, small to
yes.
large, whatever it is, so you have a chance to do it well with all of the problems, with all the difficulties that come with it. You have the chance to tilt the organization that you're building in something that people are proud of being associated with. We do good work here, which means they tell their neighbors, I like my job. They want to stay because you're the manager that they've always wanted to have, as opposed to the real reason where, all the studies keep showing this. People quit because of their leaders, they quit because of their managers. And not for the pay, not for the mission, sometimes not even for a moral compromise. They quit because they don't trust the leader to see them, to care about them, to call out their best. And so
Hold
you
them
have a chance
accountable.
in your corner to do it in a way that you see can work. And I sure wish you well as you do.
Yes. That's why I started this actually. I saw that I wanted to do that. I like how you said that they tell the people about the business, not me telling people. Because
Right.
it's not about me, it's about them, but they're feeling what they're doing.
Hmm.
Like that you
Yeah. If
said a
they're
lot of
going
companies
home
like, oh,
telling a
you're good,
partner,
you're good. That no, it's
yeah,
coming from the employees.
yeah.
Yes.
I have a client right now that's really been working hard at this. And they don't intend to really be a family business, but they do intend to be a business that families enjoy working there. And so they are now celebrating a certain number of long term employees whose children or nieces or nephews are now applying and getting hired. So you've got two generations of
Awesome.
multiple families working in the business. They're very careful about nepotism. They've got some good policies in place, but they want to be long term and build this for the long term. And they want to be a company where Uncle John tells his niece Susan or Delilah or whatever her name is, you'll want to come work here. Well,
I'm
then
gonna
that
talk
starts
to
to
this
solve all kinds
company.
of recruitment problems.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm gonna talk to this company. Maybe offline or something. Let me get them on here. I
I will
wonder
be
how
glad
they're
to give
doing
you
it,
the
what they're doing it.
CEO. He loves doing podcast stuff, so I'll
Yeah.
send you his contact
Those are
info.
the businesses I want to be connected with to learn from and
Yeah,
figure these things out. Like we said, with people who've already done it or are doing it.
yeah. I'll be glad to
Because
send you an email and connect you.
yeah, that just sounds amazing. Have you read the book Tribal Leadership?
Yes.
I just finished it. I have to go read it again. But that book, I've never read anything and put things put into those terms about the different stages that people go through in life, and those are the kind of people that you should hire. I think just that book puts so many things into perspective. I'd never have thought of that way before. Like, it was just like, whoa. But it makes a lot of sense how certain people in certain stages of life and to have certain mindsets, you have to watch out because those mindset and stages might not be appropriate for what kind of work and your vision and your mission that you're trying to do. And it's that was so powerful. I might have butchered that a little bit. I have to go read it a second time.
I think
But
you said it well.
I was like, whoa. And then that kind of goes to what you said today. I was like, man, I'm hearing this for a second time. That is really powerful stuff. People need to read this stuff. People need to read these books, watch these podcasts, and really take in the information, not just put it on a playlist and go through it. But if they really want to make that positive change, they really have to pay attention and really get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's stressful. A lot of times I'm stressed out, but in a good way. not
Yeah, but it's the
stressful that
work you
my life's gonna
chose.
end.
I
Yeah.
mean, you chose this as opposed to another form of stress.
Exactly. Like for me, it's stressful laying on the couch sometimes, or stressful going to work. But it's stressful building something, but knowing that my own creativity, blood, sweat, and tears are being put into that, not to only
Yes,
build it, but to help other people create other leaders that come into the company.
you said
So
it
it's not
well.
just about me, it's about them also. And sometimes I have to remind myself that. So I do forget sometimes. I'm a human being. Mark, it's been great having you on here today. It's been a really good pleasure talking with you.
I've enjoyed it.
Yes, before we go, is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with and how they can reach out to you also if they want to work with you?
Well, I'm happy to hear from folks who are serious about figuring out these kinds of things that we've been talking about. And the easiest way to find me and reach me is to use my name and then say .com. So marklvincent.com will work, and you'll find out more than you probably even care about related to some of the work that I've been involved in. But that's the way you can reach out, and then I'm happy to listen and think alongside, and then determine if there is a resource I can provide. But most of the time, actually, anymore, I'm connecting them to a really strong resource that could help them based upon what they're describing, and I really enjoy playing that connector role with them. And one of the things that we're learning about with the AI advent is that people will use that and say, "Help me with this, help me with that." What AI is not getting very well yet is context and the specifics tied to an individual or how it fits with their key moment of development in a business. So let me quickly give an example. Um, if we say, well, here's the business development cycle, what stage are you in? Oh, okay, here's the resources you need. That's what AI is going to do. So quick, easy, and can be very helpful. And if it is, but I am this age, I have this person in the business with me, this is what they're like, this is what their temperament's like, these are the covenants I have with the bank, it starts to get far more specialized nuance tied to the context. And so the practiced eyes and ears of people who've done this a long time really makes a difference for being able to get at it. And I just enjoy those conversations with people. So I'm just, marklvincent.com is a great place to get those started.
Thank God. Definitely put that down in the show notes. And you know what from what you just said, I love that because I've used AI as a strategic business partner and as an executive coach. And it gives you a lot of information, but it doesn't tell you exactly what to do with it, how to implement it. It doesn't have the
Right,
experience. And that
right.
gets a little frustrating. But they only take you so far than before. Well, let me reach out to Mark. He could probably help me a little further with this.
Something like
Because,
that. Yep.
yeah, I'm going to have to reach out to you myself, actually.
I will be responsive.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. I would love to deep dive more again, talk to you about more of these concepts as well. If you want to come
I'm
back on
always
here.
happy to return. Feel free. Yeah,
Yeah. I really enjoyed the conversation. Besides my little blooper earlier.
it's quite all right.
Before we go, one last question I always ask everyone, and that is, what does it mean to you to be a human being?
This is a question that I don't answer lightly. And there are several ways I've learned to go after it. And I think for our conversation today, I would say it this way: as a human being, you can only be in the room you are in, with the people you are with, and at the time that you are there. That's it. You can't time travel and go backwards in time and fix something, and you can't move forward to a time that you aren't there yet because the calendar hasn't turned. So you're only in this time spot that you're in, and it's going to pass like that. And you're with the people in the room that you're with, or that you're connected to, or that you love, or that you work with. And you have a physical presence, or if it's a virtual presence like we're doing, I can only have this conversation with you right now, and when it's over, I can't go back and undo it or redo it. I can't move ahead to when it's going to be released. I can't do it. I just have now. And to embrace that and to drink the benefits of that moment dry by being present and curious and with people is as close to fully human as I think we can be. And I personally intend to keep growing in that regard. And so the intention to be better at what I've described, I think, is also a part of being human.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. And find it absolutely profound too, because that kind of goes against the name of the podcast. But it is true, though. It is
Hmm.
very true. You
But if you're
can't go
present in a
back.
multiverse, then you've got to keep awareness of the multiverse. You got to keep awareness of the dimensions. But I can only affect the dimensions where I'm at, contained here with the people I'm working with and at the current moment. Otherwise, I I am not present. I'm scattered, and I don't have integrity and I don't have integration, and I'm lost. Right now you
So
walk into a
true.
place and you've got somebody. Let's say you're at a rental car center, and they're looking
Yeah.
at their phone and they're typing with two fingers and don't even make eye contact with you, right? They're not in the room with you. They are time traveling. They are not present. They are not in the now, and they're not in the room. And we're
Mind
we're
traveling.
collecting story after story after story of people like that now. Our set of experiences where, hello, anybody home?
What? What?
Can we talk? Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh my god, I love how you said that because it's so powerful. Because I experienced that so much in the city I live in. Unfortunately, that you try and say hi to people, get their attention, they're so engulfed in their phones, or they're
Hmm.
just not present. They're not there. They're not paying attention. They're just
Yeah.
somewhere else, and it's
They
just
veer
like,
into you on the sidewalk when you're a pedestrian.
yeah, they
Yeah.
don't see you. It's just like, what is everyone doing? What are they thinking? Like, they're just not
Hmm.
there. And
Hmm.
I understand you walk by someone, okay, you don't know them. But like if you're in a company or in a meeting, it's like your wife or husband next to you, you're trying to talk to them, they're on the phone, they're just not there anymore.
Right. Right.
And we kind of built this into our whole society and our universe, and it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess for everything else, there's podcasting. Wow. Very, very beautiful conversation with you, Mark. And I definitely want to have you back on here again. Thank you
Thank you so
so much
much.
for coming on here today.
Total pleasure from my part.
Yes, you have a good rest of your week.
You as well.
Bye.